And good to go. Okay, guys, Matthew 25. We're going to take a little hiatus from Acts for now and let Hoff continue with that. But do we have more light in here? So, I don't know. Is this one turned on too? Sweet. Okay. Matthew 25. This is my probably favorite section of the entire Bible. We're actually going to start with verse 14. We're not going to read the whole thing. The reason I love this so much is because it's red. It's all red letter. You guys know what red letter is all about? It's right from the mouth of the man. And to me, that's inspiring. I love to read in Acts. I love to read what the apostles are doing, but when this comes straight from the master, it makes me pay attention. And it perks my ears, and it hits home with me deep. And so I always love to come back to the Gospels, and I love to hear what Jesus has to say. And so, hey, buddy. And so let's check this out. We're going to check out Matthew 25, take it, verse 14 through 30. And this is called the Parable of the Talents. Have any of you ever read the Parable of the Talents before? New territory? Awesome. All right, so this is going to be my favorite section. So first things first, I'm going to read through 14 through 30, and then we're going to tear it apart and see what we can take as application. So here we go. Parable of the Talents. And so just kind of preceding it, if you got to churn a page back and look at where it starts, it's the parable of the wise and foolish virgins. Okay? And that's all about the bridegroom is going to have his bridegroom party. There's 10 virgins there. 5 are wise, 5 are foolish. Has anyone ever heard that story? There's the 5 come prepared. They've got their oil there waiting for them. So when the bridegroom comes by, they're like, boom, pick up your lamps and let's go. They're ready, and they get to go into the party. There's 5 other virgins that are there that forget their oil, and they're unprepared. And so when they ask to go into the party, the bridegroom says, hey, you're not ready. You're not prepared. You can't come in. And that's kind of an application for us about being prepared for the time when Jesus arrives. And this kind of ties right into it because it's the parable right after. You guys know what parables are by chance? They're stories that teach a lesson. And so it's actually, little stories that teach a lesson. Are they true accounts? No, they're kind of made up. So Jesus will make up these little stories. He teaches that way. Rather than speaking direct, he's going to give you a story that directly applies to your life. So here we go. 14, for the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received 5 talents went and traded with them, and made another 5 talents. And likewise, he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. And look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. And he also, who had received 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. But look, there, you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, you wicked and lazy servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, And at my coming, I would have received back my own with interest. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So I just want you guys to just pause and think. Think of a couple questions. We're going to ask some questions first. I'm not going to give you the answers. I'm going to see as we go through if the questions you have get answered. And so just stop and think about what this might be about. What might the message be? Some things that are confusing, some things that you don't understand, and then let's just throw them out there and see what we got. So take a second. I'll mull it over. Victor, anything comes to mind? Any kind of questions that immediately pop up to you? Okay. Roger?
Weeping and gnashing of teeth. To do with the end times.
The weeping and gnashing of teeth. The weeping and gnashing of teeth has to do with being cast into outer darkness.
So like at the end.
We'll get to that. We'll get to it. It's a good question, so let's hold on to it for now. And at the end, I think we're going to answer that. Great question. What is weeping and gnashing of teeth? Does it sound like a good thing? No. It doesn't sound like a good thing. Yeah, sounds like a bad deal. So let's see what that bad deal is. Arisa, you got anything? Nothing? Okay.
I was thinking something.
So the weeping and gnashing of teeth? Okay. All right. What you got?
It says, weeping where you have not shown.
Reaping where you've not sown, and scattering. Yes. Yep. Okay. We'll address that one too. That's kind of it's a tricky little thing, and it's up for interpretation. So we'll look at it. So the reason I like this so much is I became convicted a few years ago, and really not until most recently, what the message of this was. And what I want to draw to your attention, guys, is once again who this is coming from. Can we remind ourselves? This is coming straight from Jesus. Who is Jesus Christ? The Son of God. What has the Son of God done? He sacrificed himself. He saved the world through that sacrifice. And he is our Lord and Savior. In addition, when we consider who Jesus Christ is, he's the God of this universe. He is the Alpha and Omega. He is the One. And when he speaks, we need to pay attention. And, I still have a hard time, and I think we all do. But this one's really convicted me, and so I wanted to look into it and see if we can do some application. So looking at the beginning, let's start right up the top, and we're going to kind of go section by section and work our way down. So it says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country." So is like a man, that's a simile. If you guys are taking some English classes, using the word like or as, making a comparison. The kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability, and immediately he went on a journey. And so it's interesting to note that we've got this man traveling into a far country. Okay? And so the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country. Can we make any connections there of what this kingdom of heaven and what these men have in common? Any ideas?
It's not easy.
It's not an easy thing. So what's not easy?
Because like the man traveling would be like from one place to another, would be like walking like from here to Chesapeake or whatever.
Okay, so traveling a long distance. Pardon me?
Giving, like delivered his goods to them.
Delivers his goods to the servants. And so who might this man be traveling to a far country? Who might that represent? Any ideas? Paul is not entered into this story yet. Everybody? I'm thinking it's Jesus. I think it's God. God is this man traveling to a far country, and he delivers his goods to his servants. Who are his servants? Yeah, we are his servants. And so, interesting enough, in these ancient times, it says this. It was no strange idea in the ancient world where servants or slaves were often given great responsibility. This was often the safest and smartest thing a man could do with his money. He's traveling a long distance. He's taken off from his business. He's going to put everything into a servant's hand and be like, hey, run the show while I'm gone. And that was probably one of the best things they could do, and it was a common thing. Can you guys think of anyone in the Old Testament, a servant who was given great responsibility? Nope. Old Testament, in the old times, Egypt. Want another story? Slave.
Moses.
After Moses, or sorry, before Moses. No, after Moses. Hang on. After Moses. Before Moses. Well before Moses. I'm getting confused. Well before Moses. You sold after Abraham. Was sold as a slave, cast in a well. His brothers hated him.
The 7 brothers?
He wore a coat of many colors.
Joshua?
Joseph.
Joseph. Yeah, I knew it started with a J.
Getting all the J's out there. The story of Joseph. You guys remember the story of Joseph? Joseph had this vision. He had this vision that he was going to be this great and powerful man, that his brothers were going to bow down to him. And he went and told his brothers, like, hey, I had this dream that you guys are going to bow to me one day. And they weren't too stoked about that.
Because he was the youngest one, right?
He was the youngest one, favored by father.
And he was supposed to be the oldest.
Yeah, and so the oldest ones were supposed to have more power, and he's just like, you guys are all going to bow to me. So they threw him in a pit. They sold him into slavery into Egypt, and so he was a slave in Egypt. And because that he was such an honorable, godly man, the Egyptians began to give him power, Potiphar, and then his wife tried to sleep with Joseph. He rejected her. She kind of called that he was trying to rape her, and so he was thrown into prison. And then later on, he became the second most powerful man in Egypt, right? And so it's kind of showing that it was a common thing to give your servants much power. And so looking at this, we've got these 3 characters. There are 3 different servants here, and what do we know about the 3 servants? What's the only thing we have on them?
They got different talents.
Different talents. Do you guys know what talents are by chance?
Money.
It's money. Very good. So actually what we're talking about here in ancient times is money. A talent, back then a single talent is probably equal to about $1,200 our time, which in modern days doesn't seem like a lot. But back in those days, one single talent would equal 6,000 denarii. 6,000 denarii would be what a regular day worker, a day laborer, would earn in 20 years. Okay? So a single talent is a day worker's 20 years of wages. It's a lot of money. Okay? And so, pardon me? This would be, the denarii would be the currency that was used in the time of Jesus in Jerusalem and in the areas. And so they would all be with the denarii that he's talking about. And so we are talking 1 talent, 3 talents, and 5 talents. So 5 talents would be equivalent to how many years of work? You can do the math. 100 years of day laboring would get you 5 talents. So we're talking about a considerable sum of money. Although in our English equivalent, we are going to say that a talent can also be equated. And when these parables, they're stories, right? So the stories isn't just referring to money, but we can also apply it to our own talents. And so in the application of this parable to us, we can consider talents being all of our resources. We're talking about time, we're talking about our money, our abilities, and the positions of authority that we're in. Okay? These all are considered talents. And so looking at this, first thing I want you guys to do is kind of a hands-on guy. So I want you to take a piece of paper. And what I want you to do is I want you to divide it in 4. And I want you to write down all of your talents. We're talking about time, we're talking about money, we're talking about your skills and abilities, and we're also talking about your positions of authority. It could be a lot of things. 4. And so I want you to do time, money. You're Roger? Okay. Time, money, position of authority, and your abilities. So break those into 4, and just kind of we're going to take like 5 minutes, and just jot down what you think all of your talents are. So first of all, the time. What kind of time do you have available to you? What kind of money do you have available to you? What are the abilities that you have, and what kind of authorities have you been given over others?
What was the last name?
Authority.
What?
Time, money, abilities, and authority. And when we're talking about time, we're talking about your free time. How much free time do you have?
Like the amount, hours.
The amount of hours that you have of free time. And let's go ahead and say, let's say in a day. The amount of spare time you have in a day. And if you don't, if your days change, maybe go by week. Money. When you think about money, how much money do you make and how much money do you have at your disposal to spend as you please? Abilities deal with any type of talent or skill that you possess that maybe other people don't possess. Or maybe you possess a skill that is better than others or more highly developed than others. Ready?
What is it? Time, money.
Time, money, abilities, and authority. Here, Anthony, we're just right now we're going through Matthew 25, talking about the parable of the talents. You read that one? So right now I'm having you jot down what are your talents, and so in regards to time, money, abilities, and authority. What are your talents? Authority deals with the position of authority that you've been given over others, so maybe you are in a position to influence other people in whatever way.
It was time, money,
Abilities and authority. So I just kind of did 4 little things there, and I'm just going to just jot down some ideas. And just as in like abilities deal with like personality traits, just anything that you feel like is something that you've developed that you're good at. That's a good characteristic about you. Free time. The time you have, I'm not talking about school, practice, jobs, but just the time you have to do whatever you want with it. So it's your time. Okay. So about 30 seconds to kind of finish up. I just want you to just hold your list there in your laps, and I got a question for you guys. It says that the servants were given different amounts. Why were the servants given different amounts? Can you see anything in that scripture in the verse that shows that? Verse 15. Why were they given different amounts of talents? What's the purpose of that? What does it say?
They can all be different.
They can all be different. What does it say in the actual scripture? Say that nice and loud. So the master, the Lord, gave each of them talents according to their ability. So what does that indicate then? What kind of can we infer about this master and his servants? What about that? What do we know about their relationship? Seems that he seems to know who they are. He knows what they're capable of, and so each one he's given according to what he feels is capable or according to their abilities. So I want you all to look at your own lists now, and I'm going to ask that you go ahead and show your lists. You might be embarrassed or shy about it or whatever, but just go ahead and show them. Okay, go ahead and show your lists. And I want everyone just to look around and look at each other's lists. Okay? What are we noticing about some lists according to others? Some are longer, some are shorter, some are in between. So would we be able to compare our lists with what's happening in the parable? Some given 1, some given 3, some given 5. When I look at my abilities, I don't have a lot of abilities. I put things down like outgoing, not shy, caring, I'm a good helper, quick to learn, not really actual abilities. Because I lack abilities. And I used to always wonder, like, man, well, I don't have any abilities. And sometimes I can get jealous at a guy like Hoff, who's got a lot of abilities. The dude does a lot of things, right? But if you ever feel like that and you feel like, man, I just don't have skills, and sometimes we get down on ourselves like we don't have anything to offer, or we don't have skills or abilities to share with people, we do. We're all given according to our ability and according to what the Lord knows. One of my abilities is speaking Spanish, right? I didn't start speaking Spanish until I was 19. Anyone here 19 yet? Okay. So Jimmy, at 19, I finally started to learn one of my abilities, and to this day, it's probably my greatest ability that I have, is my ability to communicate another language and to produce it, right? And so, do we have all of our abilities developed yet? Have we figured out what all our talents are? Not even close. You guys are still young, we still have a long life ahead of us, and we're going to continue to develop these talents over time. And so I kind of wanted to point this out, that we all have different levels and different skills and different talents and different abilities. And some of our categories are longer than others. And maybe our authority category is short and our abilities category is long. Maybe our money category is long and our ability is short. They're just different. All of us are different. And are we okay with that? But are you honestly really okay with that? So if you're not, you should just have a little reflection process and try to come to terms that it's okay. It's okay to be different and okay to lack. Because I certainly lack in a lot of areas. So looking at this, what I want you to know is an interesting thing here. It says, the servants were given different amounts of money according to their ability. One servant only received 1 talent. Does that seem like a little? Seems like a little, doesn't it? How much was 1 talent worth? I'm talking 20 years of wage, man. And so while we like to think it's not little, 1 talent is an incredible and insurmountable amount of money. And so it's still a lot. And I think that's an important thing to remember is God is entrusted in all of us different levels of abilities and talents, yet it's still an incredible amount and it's still extremely valuable. 1 talent is not an insignificant amount. Some receive more, but everyone receives something, and everyone received a large amount. The talent which each man has suits his own state best, and it is only pride and insanity which lead him to desire and envy the graces and talents of another. I've definitely fallen victim of that at some points in my life, feeling envious of other people's skills and abilities, until I came to terms that my own skills and abilities are extremely valuable if I choose to use them. Right? If I choose to use them. So looking here, I'm going to ask you another question. When is it that we can discover our own talents? God wants you to? Opens up who you are, opens up the spirit into your life. When can we discover our talents? Is there a time limit? And so sometimes it's always be like when we want to as well, right? We're actually willing to. Talents don't just come naturally. Talents require effort. And so looking here, we say this. Then he who received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise, he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. It's fascinating. Did the master tell them what they should do with their talents? Didn't. Just gave it to them. Didn't tell them to do anything with it. So I'm going away. Here's 5, here's 3, here's 1. See ya. And he left. But immediately, what happened? 2 of them went and multiplied. And the 1 guy? Stashed it, hid it. And so, why is it that 2 of them went to trade? And what does that show us about these guys? 2 of them went and traded. Why did they do that?
Because they knew the power of their abilities, or that they knew their abilities.
They knew their own abilities. What else? They wanted to make some more. Maybe they feared their master, right? They knew that he would be calling on, he'd be requiring certain things. And so looking here, it says this. He who received the 5 talents went and traded with them. Taylor. Each of those were in Matthew 25. Each of those who had received talents from their master did with them as they saw fit. 2 of them traded with their talents and earned more talents. And the 2 of them, so the 5 went and earned 5 more talents, the 2 went and earned 2 more talents. And so what we should know is going and trading implies these guys went and it's a direct action. They decided to go out and do something with what they were given. They didn't just sit around waiting. The Lord didn't tell them what they needed to do. The Lord of the vineyard or whatever it is, doesn't really tell us this, but the Lord goes out and he just says, here's the money, and he leaves. 2 of them go out and have direct action. The point is that the good servants felt the responsibility of their assignment and went to work without delay. We aren't told how they traded with their talents. Perhaps they loaned the money at interest. Perhaps they used the money and bought things and sold them for more money. The point is that they used what they had and gained more by using. So what we need to do is we need to apply this to our own lives. What's the application here with these 2 servants? What's the application? How can we apply it to our own lives? So maybe just go ahead and take a second, maybe 15 seconds, 20 seconds, think about that. What's the application to you in your own life? What is Jesus Christ himself trying to communicate to you? Because these are out of his mouth. What is he trying to teach you? What is he trying to tell you individually? Really? Everything's application. So what do we got? What's God trying to tell us? So we see these two servants, and so God is telling this parable, and he's saying there's three servants. One gets 5, he goes out and doubles it. One gets 2, he goes out and doubles it. One goes, takes a talent, hides it, and buries it. What's the application to us in our lives?
What I see is like you get the word, and if you don't share it, you still saved as long as you call it God or whatever. And then, but you can also like get the word, like learn it from someone, and you can teach it to other people and gain more people to come to Christ.
So we're talking about like doubling souls.
Yeah.
We ourselves get saved, and then we go out and double back and save more. Good application.
Either way, you accept the gift, whether you want to share it.
I like it.
Or I'm thinking maybe how you use your abilities, right? And you get more abilities, like because they obviously knew their abilities. I mean, they do because they went. They went like they had their abilities right, and they went and doubled it. So they used their abilities to their advantage to get more and like gain more. And so that one that it was kind of maybe I don't know. I kind of thought maybe he just like didn't want to gain more because he like didn't understand how it could benefit him. But the two, like, they felt how they said like they felt their power, like they felt what they needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
They did it.
Felt the power, the responsibility. They felt the urge and the weight on their shoulders.
Yeah.
So it says the
So
good
not
servants
take it
felt
for
the
granted.
responsibility of their assignment.
Yeah, to not take it for granted and to like capitalize on like what you have.
And so when we're looking at our own list of talents that we're looking down here, do you feel the weight of your responsibility? Do you guys know what your responsibility is? You don't know? Anthony knows. You know what your responsibility is? Roger, know what your responsibility is? I have an idea? What your responsibility is? You have a for sure idea? Santiago? Not yet?
True responsibility. I have responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think they're true responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. Gonzalo? Answer?
Same as Jimmy.
Not quite sure what it is yet? Anthony, what's the weight of your responsibility?
Well, one of them is being a drummer.
Mhm.
In our church, recently started like music lessons, and from like the ability to be able to play drums, I can teach others our church and show them how to also play drums.
Show them how to play the drums, share that responsibility, share that talent and skill you have. And so, what about you, Risa? What's the burden of your responsibility? What's the weight that you feel, the responsibility of your assignment?
I feel like how do I see it or like what is it? I guess?
I'm not going to give you guys any answers. I don't feel like I'm in a position to give you answers. We're just doing some reflecting and some thinking today.
I feel like he's put it on my heart to lead, and I've always like felt that, just like that. And I think like because I've been like a team captain, and I feel like I don't know, being able to help people and like actually like have them like behind me. That's like what I felt like he's like put in my heart because I don't know. I've always had just like the sense of wanting to be, I don't know, like be in control, like and like having people like believe in me and like follow me. So then I don't know. And just one day I thought about going to West Point. And West Point, a military academy, you come out being like a lieutenant, so you're in charge. And I don't know, like that's just always been something I've just like always been drawn to having that authority, I guess. So it's just always like interests me. So.
Did you guys know that you all have a responsibility when you decide to accept Jesus Christ? When you accept Him into your life, He puts a burden on your shoulders. You guys are aware of that, right? You know what that burden is? What's the whole mission? Spread the word like a plague. Right? What has God bestowed upon each of us? He's given us abilities. He's given us time. He's given us resources. And he's given some of us authority. And that's what he's given to these these men in the parable. He's given them all different talents, and he's given them a commission. And two of them felt the weight of that responsibility and immediately went out and went to work. Went to put their talents to use, and they did everything they could to multiply and double them. And we can kind of look at that in different ways. What are some good things you can say about the first two servants? Any ideas? There's some good things about those guys that we get from this parable.
They're faithful.
They were faithful. What else? Self-reliant. Did they wait around? Did they wait a couple days? They sit around and wait a few weeks, play some Xbox for a while before they went out and worked? These guys were persistence, perseverance is one of the ones on this list here. They worked promptly. They got to work immediately. Were they successful? They were successful. And when their master came, what were they ready to do?
Show them what they said.
Yeah, they were ready to give an account of what they did. When the master came, they were ready for him. And they said, hey, look, while you were gone, here's what I did. What about the third servant? What about the third servant?
You never felt that. Or I guess.
Didn't feel that responsibility. So it says here, the third servant did almost nothing with his master's money. He did take some care that it would not be lost by hiding it, but he did nothing positive with his master's money, in contrast to the first two servants. What does this mean to you guys? He didn't do anything with it. He didn't lose it. He didn't spend it. Didn't steal it. But he did nothing positive with the money.
You talked to me about jealousy. That guy would be jealous of the two because
Pride.
Right.
So his jealousy kept him from going out and working at it. Isn't one talent an incredible amount of money? And so, did he misuse his talents? Just didn't use them. He was given talents in an incredible amount, a fair amount. Just chose to do nothing with them. And so now we need to ask ourselves, what's the application? Because every time we read a verse, we have to go back and ask ourselves, this is coming straight from the mouth of the master himself. What is he trying to tell you? What's he trying to communicate to you? What's the purpose of this story that he's giving us? He didn't spend his money. He didn't abuse it. He didn't misuse it. He didn't steal it. He just did nothing with it. Verses 19 through 23, it says, after a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. And look, I've gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. And he also received 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents, and look, I've gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. I will make you rule over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. So it says, after a long time, the Lord of servants came. The long delay would tempt the servants to think they would never give an account for their management. Yet they most certainly would. How long was the master gone, do you know? Which is a long time. How long has our master been gone? A couple thousand years? Is he coming back? How do you know? Bible told you. Coming back. And what did he tell you to do? Be ready for me. Do you know when he's coming back? You don't. Talks about him coming back like a thief in the night. It's going to surprise the heck out of you. It's going to catch you way off guard if you're not ready. If you're always preparing, can you be caught off guard? You can't. You can't be caught off guard if you're always prepared. What was the reward of the first servant?
He was given more responsibilities from others.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I had 5. I made extra 5. Here you go. And he said, what did he say to him? What are the exact words?
Said you have been faithful in handling this small amount. Now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together.
Absolutely. Is that what yours says?
Yeah.
That's a cool version. That's interesting. Yeah. What is that Bible?
I don't know. I just couldn't read the other one, so I could read it, but it'd be hard.
That was good stuff. Read it again. I like that. This is like it's like the slang version in a way.
Did you say like thou and thy or what?
Celebrate.
It's yeah. Just let's hear it. That's fun.
It says, you have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together.
I love it.
What?
So in my version, and just the regular New King James says, well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I'll make you a ruler of many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. And so I like that. We will celebrate together. Let's celebrate together. Enter the joy of your Lord. That's pretty funny. I like that. That's nice. So the reward for the first servant, he said, well done. You were faithful over a few. I will give you many things. Enter the joy of the Lord. What was the reward of the second servant who only had 3 talents? You ruler of many? Isn't it the exact same thing? Does it change either word? Not a single word is changed. He who had 5 and doubled 5, he gave 10 back. He said, well done. You did awesome. You were ruler over few. I'll make you ruler over many. Enter into my joy. He who gave 3 and gave 6 back, almost half as much. What did he say? Well done. You were faithful over a few. I will give you many. Enter into my joy. Is the reward any different? Whether you have 5 talents or whether you have 3 talents? Whether you give the Lord back 10 or whether you give him back 6? Whether you give him back 4 or whether you give him back 3? What if you give him back 1? Do you have the same reward?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and read what the other servant,
The third one?
third servant. Then he who received 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed, and I was afraid and went and hid your talent around. Look, there you have what is yours. So, let's go ahead and read what happens to him. Do you remember?
It's thrown into darkness.
He's cast into darkness. Is his reward the same? No. So we have to take into consideration what's going on here. It's important and awesome to me that it doesn't matter what you bring back to the Lord so long as you give back more than what you were given. And that's what the point of the parable is whether it's 5, whether it's 4, whether it's 3, whether it's 2. It doesn't matter what the Lord gives you. It doesn't matter how long your list is. It doesn't matter how many talents and skills and abilities, how much money, and how much authority you've been given, so long as you're putting it to work for God and you're giving it back, right? Because the reward is the same for all of us, as long as we're working. And for me, the one most impactful thing and something that why I wanted to share this message with you guys is there is nothing more in my life that I want than to die, to see Jesus, and for him to say those words to me. Kyle, well done, my good and faithful servant. It melt my heart. And I just can't wait for that moment. And since this hit me, of that this is Christ himself speaking, he's telling me specifically, I've begun to work much harder in putting my talents to use and in not squandering. I spent some time doing a little chart here. And I went through and I looked at all my time that I have. I'm a pretty busy guy. And I think a lot of you think you're pretty busy. How many of you think you have no free time? Good. Because you all have free time. But I'm a busy guy. And I got a lot of free time. So I went and looked. And this is my time chart. It's my time pie graph. Okay? So we look. I spend 29% of my time sleeping. 49 hours a week. I get about 7 hours a night on average. I spend 22% of my time in a week working at Grandview, the high school. 11% of my time is spent working at the 21st Century Program at Compass. 34% of my time is just free time. I can do whatever I want with it. 34% of my time. More time than I work and more time than I sleep. I got a lot of spare time. Just time I can do whatever I want. 0.002% of my time is at church. 0.002. And 0.001% of my week is spent in Bible study, studying the Bible. Okay? And so this is all stuff that I can't avoid. These are just my obligations throughout the week. But I still have 34% of spare time to do what with? Family time in there. Bible. I can do whatever I want with it. And so I start to look at my talents and I start to look at my list and I wonder, where am I applying my talents and my abilities and my money and my resources and my authority? Where am I applying that in my 34% time? Because all this other stuff, I can't do anything about it. God knows that. But he knows I've got 35% a week. And he's going to ask me, and he's going to hold me accountable, and he's going to say, what'd you do with that 34% time I gave you? Well, I got through like 6 series of Game of Thrones, and I watched Breaking Bad all the way through twice.
Do you apply it though in like other aspects of your life, like at school, at the high school, like even though you don't talk about it, like wait, you talk about it,
Like what?
like talk about God and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think you apply it in your life too, though.
I agree. I do. But I'm saying, you don't know what I do with my 34%, but I do. And so we'll talk about at the end is saying, what are we doing with our spare time? And I'll tell you at the end what I'm doing with my spare time because I'm totally convicted about this. And so let's kind of keep going a little bit. But I think it's important to stop and think, how much time do we actually have? And are we giving it to God? Or how much are we giving it to God? Because that's exactly what this is talking about, is going out and working and doubling what he's given us. So let's continue. It says, so here we go. He says, you have been faithful over a few things, and I will make you ruler over many things. The reward was the same for both servants. Even though one was given 5 and the other was given 2, each performed the same according to the resources they had received. Right? Well done, good and faithful servant. This shows that the master looked for goodness and faithfulness in his servants. Whatever financial success these servants enjoyed came because they were good and faithful. The master looked for these character qualities, not for a specific amount of money. Did you guys notice that? He doesn't come back and say, what'd you make me? What are your numbers? How much did you do? Doesn't care. All he wants to know is that they worked for him. They put their talents to use, and they came back with more. He just wants to know that they were good and faithful. He wants to know that they were diligent, that they actually went out and worked for him. And so it's good to keep in mind that he doesn't say, well done, thou good and brilliant servant. You're brilliant. You doubled your money. You were like a genius out there. That was fantastic. Way to go, brilliant servant. Doesn't say it. Nor does he say, well done, thou great and distinguished servant. Wow, you were distinguished. Everyone knew who you were. You were popular. You were just, well done, you distinguished servant. He doesn't say that either. He simply says, well done, good and faithful servant. And I think that's inspiring to us and inspiring to me because I don't consider myself a brilliant individual, nor will I ever be brilliant. And I certainly am not distinguished, nor will I ever expect to be distinguished. And that brings me great comfort that God is not looking at me to be brilliant or distinguished. He just simply wants me to be what? Faithful. Just be faithful. Just put to use what I've given you and just do your best with it and do it for me. And in the end, if I do that, when I die and I open my eyes and hopefully Jesus Christ is there, that's my imagination. I'm going to open my eyes and he's the first person I see and he's just going to look at me and he's going to be like, well done. Does that excite you guys? It excites me. I don't know if it does. but I just can't wait. And for me, death, sometimes I'm driving, I'm like, oh, I hope I don't die because I need my wife and my children would just be terrible and I feel so bad for them. But sometimes I'm like, oh God, I would just love to die. I just see you now. Like, I can't wait. I have no fear of death. I have a yearning for death because I can't wait. Because I'm ready. And I know I'm working. I know I'm doing the Lord's bidding. I know I'm using his talents well, and I know that that's what he's going to see. And I hope you guys can get to that point, and if you're not already there, then work for that so that any moment you can pass away and what you're hoping for. And so that's why I wanted to share this message. Let's keep going. It says this, application to your life. It is better to be faithful in the infant school than to be unfaithful in a noble class of young men. It is better to be faithful in a hamlet over 2 or 3 score of people than to be unfaithful in a great city parish with thousands perishing in consequence. It is better to be faithful in a cottage meeting, speaking of Christ crucified, to 100 people than to be unfaithful in a great building where thousands congregate. It is better to be faithful over a few things and a few talents than to be unfaithful over many. Right? It is better to be faithful with the $15 you've been given than to be unfaithful with the 10,000 that you've been given. Enter into the joy of your Lord. This is an interesting thing. The joy of the Lord, is that heaven? Why not? How do we know it's not heaven? It's an interesting question. How do we know that the joy of the Lord, when he says, well done, my good and faithful, enter the joy of your Lord? He's not talking about heaven. He's not saying, come into heaven. Why do we know this? It doesn't. What does it take to get into heaven? Just believe. So we know he's not talking about heaven here because God's not judging us and we're not gaining entrance into heaven by being good and faithful servants, by duplicating our talents or using our talents, right? So he says, enter into the joy of the Lord. What it says here, and I think this is really nice, it says this. This has the echo of heaven in it. The idea is that there is a place of joy belonging to the master of these servants. Okay? The master owns this place of joy. And what is he doing? He's inviting you to join. He's got the pie. He's inviting you to have a slice. It's my pie, but enjoy a slice of it. This is my joy, but I'm going to share my joy with you. There's a sense of heaven about this destiny for the two faithful servants. This is not the portion. God's not saying, here's your portion of the pie. He's just saying, I'm going to share with you what I have. Okay? We can say the reward of the first 2 servants is this. They received praise from their master. They received a promise of future blessing. And they received the glory of joy in the Lord. So now the third servant gives his account. And what is it that he does? He says this. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid. And I went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there, you have what is yours. What does it seem that the servant is doing when he has to come to account? Making excuses. God, I knew you were a hard man. I was worried. I was afraid. I was going to mess up. I was going to do something wrong. I knew that you reaped where you didn't sow and gathered enough scattered seed, and I just went and hid it. But here, look. You got it all back. Take it back. Just got to make excuses here. Why don't you think he did as the others? Why didn't he go out and work and try to double it? He's lazy.
He said he was afraid.
Said he was afraid. Seems like a valid excuse, being afraid.
He didn't feel the urgency.
Didn't feel the urgency. There's an interesting little piece here. F.B. Mayer expressed the thinking of this servant. Maybe his thinking was this. I do very little. I don't have many talents. What can I do? It's not going to make much difference if I do anything. In the whole grand scheme of things, my few talents, what good are they really going to do? I shall not be missed. I won't be noticed. My tiny push is not needed to turn the scale of the great master. My master is rich, he's powerful, he has all this stuff. What does it matter, my little extra talent that I'm going to put forth? Maybe that's what he was thinking.
What about the other one, the other side? Or like, you know who you're disappointing if you don't do it right.
Who are you disappointing?
Or like God, like what if you don't
Can you disappoint God? I don't know. I don't know God. I don't know if I can disappoint him, but
like,
from
yeah,
his
that's why
word.
he's disappointed if you disobey, he's disappointed if you don't that's all. If like if you go against his will, like does that bring some disappointment?
I don't know. From what I read in the scriptures, I don't get any sense of God ever being disappointed in his servants. It's not what I get. And so yeah. I want to read Luke 15:10 real quick. Kind of an interesting little thing. And so this servant might felt like, there's no way that I'm going to make a mark. Why even try if it's going to be so little? And Luke 15:10 it says this: likewise I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. So we're talking about a man who has one talent, who is possibly too ashamed or not thinking he's going to have a big mark, make a big difference. But what does God think of one single soul? What does God think of that? One soul that repents. What is that to God?
Brings some joy.
There's joy. It's everything to God. One single soul. So if you're given one talent and you can only make 2 talents of that, is that not going to bring God great joy? And so, unfortunately, this servant just didn't quite get it. He was afraid to put his talents to use. So he says this: look, have what is yours. The third servant seemed proud of himself because the master was so powerful, and in the mind of the servant didn't need his help. Maybe sometimes we think that. Maybe sometimes we think that God's in control. He's God. He'll save people. He'll go out and he'll make things happen. What can I do? God will call people when he wants to call people. And so he says he doesn't need his help. The third servant thought the master would be pleased that he did nothing and could say, look, take what's yours. He seemed to have no idea how much he had displeased his master. And so he gives us all these talents and he wants to go out and work.
Oh,
And
right
then
there. Isn't that like because he didn't do anything, he disappointed God? So like, isn't that?
Yeah, it'd be displeasure. God would be displeased that we squandered what he'd given us. So I guess you're right, Uli. He's displeased that when we don't use what he gives us. So what else to say here? We can say in the third servant's favor that at least you still understood that what he is given belonged to his master. He said, you have what is yours. Many modern servants of God think that when God gives them something, it no longer belongs to God. It belongs to them, and they can do with it as they please. Let's remember that God is the giver and the taker. And so I think an interesting note is that once again, go back and think about this servant. He didn't misuse the talent. He didn't just waste it. He didn't steal it. He didn't spend it. He didn't squander it. He hid it. And I think it says we ought to observe that he did not spend the talent upon himself or use it in business for his own benefit. He's not a thief, nor in any way a misappropriator of money placed under his charge. In this he excels many who profess to be the servants of God, yet live to themselves only. What little talent they have is used in their own business and never upon the Lord's concern. Okay? Interesting to note this guy. He's not a thief. He's not a bad guy. He's not a misappropriator, but the talents that God does give him, he does nothing more with them than to simply use them for himself. What little talent that he has or what great talent he has, it's always for his own business and his own enterprise, and it's never spent on the Lord's work. Yet, albeit this man was doing nothing for his master, he did not think himself an unprofitable servant. He exhibited no self-depreciation, no humbling, no contrition, no sadness. He didn't feel sorry for what he'd done. He was bold as brass and said unblushingly, lo, I've what is thine. You gave me a talent. I didn't do it. Here it is. Take your talent back. Wasn't shameful, wasn't mournful or anything. And so what can we say of the third? We can say that he didn't think, he didn't work, he didn't even try, and he made excuses. And so now it comes down to the judgment. The third servant is judged. This is where we're going to get to the question you guys had. The Lord answered and said to him, "You wicked, lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, gather where I have not scattered seed, so you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers. And at my coming, I would have received back with my own interest. Therefore, take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10. For to everyone who has more will be given, and he will have abundance, but from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant to outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." What does the master have to say about this servant? You're lazy. What should he have done? Should have done something with it. Should have done something, anything. You could have put it in the bank. It could have sat in the bank and gained some interest. At least I would have gotten something back. But instead you buried it in the ground. And nothing happened with it. You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown. The condemnation of this third servant here called a wicked and lazy servant is strong. The sovereignty of the master never excused the laziness of the servant. It condemned that laziness all the more. Those who don't work for the Lord or pray or don't evangelize because God is sovereign condemns themselves by their laziness. And that's thinking we don't need to work for God because he's God. Work for himself. He's in control of everything. We don't need to pray. God knows my heart. I don't need to stop and take prayers. He knows what I'm thinking. Why pray? God is sovereign. He's powerful. I don't need to preach the gospel to people. God's in control. He's going to call the people he wants anyways. Why do I need to do anything? By their actions or lack of action, they show they are like the wicked servant in the parable. They do not know their master's heart at all. The Lord of the unprofitable servant tells him that the fault lay in his own sloth and wickedness, and his dread of his Lord's security was but a mere frivolous pretense and unreasonable excuse. The fault is always going to be on us, whether we choose to use it or not. We have no one else to blame. And I think an interesting thing was, I think words to say right here. In the end, when you put it together, you've got 3 servants, 5 talents, plus 3 and 1. So we have 9 talents going out. And how many talents come back in? Do the math.
Wait, what did you say?
9 talents went out, 5, 3, and 1. How many talents came back into the Lord?
17.
17. So as a group of 3, did pretty good, didn't they? 9 and 17. But how does God hold account to each of these servants? How does he hold them into? How does he account for them all? Does he say come bring them together? It's all individual, guys. Where did I have my note here? This was a good note. Because I like to read these notes because I didn't say a lot better than I have. Yeah, I lost it. Yeah, it talks about just like the 3 of them. Like they're not being judged as a group. What if we go to a really great church and we have a lot of great people in our church doing lots of great things? Does God care? Is he going to say, man, you guys did great as a whole group as a church. Your church was wonderful. It's not, guys. He's going to be looking at us individually, looking at our individual efforts. And so down here he says this. He says, you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. This man could have done something with what he had. Even if he had not doubled it, it would have gained some interest for the master's money. And so maybe we're thinking, well, we have to double. It's not about doubling. It's just about making more than what we've been given. And so what I want you guys to start thinking about is I want you to start thinking about your own talent list that we kind of created. What is it that you can start doing for the Lord now? You don't have to answer it out loud. Just think in your mind, what is it you can start doing? Where can you start applying some of your talents, some of your time, some of your resources, some of your authority, some of your abilities? And I think for those of us who start to think that maybe we don't have any gifts or any talents, maybe we're unskilled people, this is an important thing to remember here, and I think it's a good application. If we cannot trade directly and personally on our Lord's account, if we have not the skill nor the tact to manage a society or enterprise for him, may we at least contribute to what others are doing and join our capital to theirs, so that by some means our master may have interest to which he is entitled. And I think that's probably some of the greatest application we can get. If we feel we're unskilled, which personally I feel I'm pretty unskilled. I don't think I have a lot of skills that I can offer people. But what I can do is I can give my time to those who do have skills. I don't have the skill to organize a church. But maybe I can lend some of my skills to Hoff and some of my time to Hoff, because he does have the skill to organize a church, right? I don't have the skill to start up a school, but maybe I can go and help someone who has the skill to start up a school. I don't have the skill to start a business like he does, but maybe I can tag on some of my money and some of my resources, and I just talk to people and give some of my talents to Uli, and maybe I can help bless Uli in his own business. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, but you have the skill to you have great writing skills, so if you can get that out there, then you can
True.
influence. Well, and then you also I'll tell you. And then you also have good individual skills, like when you talk with somebody individually, we can move them into doing stuff.
So maybe I have some good skills, and so maybe I don't have skills to maybe move a lot of people, but maybe I can find someone who does have that capacity to move a lot of people, and maybe I can go and perhaps coach them, right? And so, Huff?
You just made me think of the message I gave Granby Christian a couple weeks ago in Romans 12, and it's just why it's fresh in my mind. In Romans 12, there's a list of gifts given, differing according to grace, meaning they're gifts, grace. We have mercy and grace. We don't get what we deserve. We get a bunch of stuff we never deserved in the first place. And just those things, one's prophecy, which simply means speaking forth the word of God. Ministry is what my Bible says, but the Greek word is diakonos, which is the same word as deacon or servant. It has teaching, exhorting, which is encouraging people in a godly direction, giving. That is not tithing, where we give, because I heard one pastor say, tithing in my mind, and I'm sure you guys can believe differently, but my thought, tithing, I kind of owe God that 10%. It's that was God's in the first place. Giving is this abundant giving. And some people God will bless monetarily and give them a heart to be just giving with that money. I think of Cameron as a very giving guy with money. He's very quick. It's funny because he's cheap, and at the same time he'll give a bunch away. He'll be really cheap about some things, and then he'll just blow a bunch of money on someone else because he's got this heart to give. Leading, and the word leading here, again, it's weird because these words in the Greek mean a lot different. It's more like organizing. You are the person who, when you come in, you see things that needs to get fixed. We need to make sure this structure meets code, all that kind of stuff. And I think showing mercy, and that sounds like a weird one too, but again, the meaning behind that is some people have the gift to help people in need, to be that crying shoulder. But I agree with the pastor who I heard speak on this one time. If you are a Christian, you will have at least one of this specific list of gifts. He firmly taught, I was sold on it. It's God will give you one of these no matter what. You'll have one. Someone might get one. There was no one with no talents. God was going to give one talent to at least everyone. Some people he might triple up, but one I'll just throw out it's important. With Gillis here, who's saying, I might be able to do this and that, but I can serve and help out. And one big thought is, a few of us went to see Woodlawn the other day. Great movie, and Billy Graham was in it. Billy Graham was the guy preaching at the end, and that was the guy who had the candle, and he was the one talking. Billy Graham is known as one of the greatest evangelists of all time. He's held these huge crusades, thousands upon thousands of people becoming Christians. The thought is this: how many people get saved when Billy Graham is taking out the garbage, assuming that there's no one there? How many people are saved when Billy Graham is off changing his oil? How many people, and the point is this, is that like, as I've felt a calling into a pastoral leadership in the church, the more and more I've realized just how critical the people who do the little things are. That every minute I spend doing this other stuff is a minute I don't get to prepare for a message that could reach someone's heart. Every minute that the pastor, because I honestly, my heart, and in closing, for me, real pastors, you've probably all had different experiences with different churches. They are not there to be served. They are there to serve. If pastors are worried about their titles, if pastors are worried about their pay, if pastors are worried about their respect, they're in the wrong job. They're there to serve. But because if they're really called to be a pastor and God's put that pastor's heart into them to come and help people, when the lawn doesn't get mowed, the pastor's going to go out and mow it. When the garbage doesn't get taken out, the pastor's the one who's going to go and do it. And it's what I found. It's like just one thought is like that one talent, and you could have saved one person. Well, the thought is like, well, the Lord didn't gift me with evangelism, but you know what? He's gifted me with just a heart to help and lend out helping hands. In 1 Corinthians 12, that's what the gift of helps. And here, that would be the gift of ministry, deacon. I'm a servant. God's put it on my heart to lend help. And every time there's someone in the church who's taking garbage out, mowing lawns, fixing doors, and all this kind of stuff, he's enabling a pastor to reach souls in that message. And they are both going to be rewarded for that in heaven. So that's just kind of just what I thought is like, as he continues on about this, the gifting thing, is that I do think everyone's got a gift. If you are a Christian, God is going to give you at least one. And so that's the kind of the idea. If you're going to get one, what do you do with it?
So in closing, we're at the end. The last thing that we read is about the unprofitable servant being cast into outer darkness and the weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is our question at the start. What the heck is weeping and gnashing of teeth? And so it says here as the comments, because he was wicked and lazy, the third servant demonstrated that he was not a true servant of his master at all. It is fitting that he and those who show a similar heart as he were cast forever out of the master's presence. And just reiterating, guys, that this is coming from the mouth of Jesus. This is red letter stuff. The master himself is speaking this parable to us, and he's letting us know that what happens to the servants, likewise, will happen to us. We are the servants. The weeping and gnashing. So kind of an interesting parallel. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm looking at the joy of the Lord cannot be heaven, because he says, well done, good and faithful servant, but we don't gain entrance to heaven by being good and faithful servants, by doing things, by using our talents. We gain that through grace. Through grace alone do we gain that entrance into heaven. But it's interesting to note that the outer darkness the servant is cast into, is that hell? If the joy of the Lord that the first servants get isn't heaven, it's just sharing in his joy, sharing, being a part of what God has to give, but it's not heaven, because that's not how we gain entrance. We gain it through grace. Is outer darkness hell? And I'm going to say, yes, it is. And why is it? Because he says here, the third servant demonstrates that he was not a true servant. If you truly believe in Jesus Christ, and you believe these red letter words he's speaking to you, that you are supposed to go out and use your talents and work in his vineyard and gain for him, if you're not doing it, do you believe? If your Lord is telling you, you need to go and work, you need to do, you need to act, you need to use what I've given you, and we choose not to do it, but instead we bury our talent in the ground for whatever reason, whether through fear, through laziness, through idleness, do we truly believe in our Lord? And that's a good question. Because this guy went and buried it, and he wasn't a thief, he didn't misuse it, he just didn't use it, even though his Lord commanded him to use it. And so if we're not using it, I think, yes, the outer darkness is definitely hell. because you can't achieve that grace if you don't truly believe. And I don't think that you can get that grace if you're not doing as your Lord speaks. If God were to come down here now and tell you, use your talents and start tomorrow morning, would you do it? God himself, right in the room, use your talents and start tomorrow morning. Would you do it? Well, he's already done that. He just hasn't come down here in this room and told you. But he just told you through Matthew 14 through 30. Or Matthew 25, he just told you in this parable. Use your talents. Because if you do it, you will enter into the joy of the Lord. If you don't, you'll be casting out outer darkness. And so that's just my interpretation of that, is saying, why is the servant cast out? It's not that he misused it, but he just chose not to do anything, and he showed disbelief. He showed that he was not a true master, a true servant of his master. So in the end, I hope that you guys start looking at your talents more seriously. We wrote them down. I hope you look at those, and that you guys decide what it is you can do with your spare time. So like I said, I've got this 34% free time, right? 34% of my time, I can do whatever I want within any given week. And it's not until just recently, until I actually moved to Grandview, where I really started to use my spare time wisely. And not that I'm going to boast, and not that I'm trying to sound like I'm doing great things, but I just want to express to you guys that I take this message very seriously, and I work very hard in the Lord's vineyard, and I put all my talents to use, even though I don't have physical skills. I did write down things like I have compassion, I am caring, I'm a hard worker, I'm willing to help, I'm quick to learn. And those are all talents that I put to use. And so things that I do is I give whenever I can. If I get something in the mail that says give to this organization, I give. I'll write the check almost every time. When I'm at Safeway, every time, and there's that little paper bag that says $10 for someone in need, I put that stupid bag on my cart every time. There's never a time I'll go to Safeway and see that paper bag and not put it on. Why? Because if I can go there and buy $30 worth of groceries, I can also pitch in another 10 for someone else. And it's not saying that I'm awesome and I'm doing great things, but I'm not trying to boast, but I'm trying to show you that I am a good servant. I am. And I work hard at it because I know what the rewards are. I know what my Lord has asked me to do, and I take it very seriously, and I hope you guys too. At church, I help with the camera because no one else will. I translate our sermons into Spanish. I run a PATH program for after school on Saturdays to help kids get the credits. I am an H3 advisor for the Hounds Have Heart Club and helping do good things there. I lead service trips in the summer for kids to go and do good things. I help out these youth studies whenever I can. I try to go to my Bible studies. I'm starting up a 21st century program at Compass, trying to provide some additional opportunities and hopefully reach kids that way. I work consistently and constantly and very intentionally with my talents and my 34% spare time. Because I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, you know what I did with my spare time? Watched all of Breaking Bad. I watched all of the Game of Thrones. And I could name tons of series that I've watched. I've watched a lot of TV. I just spent a lot of it just wasting time. I spent 5 years of my life playing World of Warcraft.
It's actually clocked hours.
It's clocked hours. We're talking
5
about
clocked hours.
thousands of hours in front of a computer screen just wasting time. Thousands of hours playing Modern Warfare and Black Ops and all those other games. Thousands of hours, guys. I was addicted. This is what I did in my spare time. And then I sold all that stuff and I got it out of my life because I became convicted and I realized God is giving me talents and I am just squandering them. I am not using them at all. And I've got all this free time, which I thought I didn't have. This is working 3 jobs. I saw 34% of my time is free to do the Lord's bidding. And guys, I just want to show you, and I try to be an example, and I work my butt off to try to provide a good model, because that's what Paul does. And that's what the apostles do. And that's what Jesus Christ did. It's not about boasting. It's not about showing that we're great and awesome people and that we're super holy. It's about showing that we know who God is. We know what he's asked us to do. And I am absolutely 100% willing to bow at his feet and do it, because it just gives me the joy in the end. And when it says enter into my joy, enter into the joy, or the rest of my, what does he say? What does he say? Enter the joy of my rest. What is it? Crap. Lost it. Enter into my joy, right? It's not something that you have to wait for. It's not something that has to happen when you die and come to judgment. It's not something that's going to be after this life. It happens right now. Every time you choose to serve, and every time you choose to use your talents, you get to experience that. And I experience it every day. With every student I talk to, every time I'm serving, whenever I have to translate a serve in Spanish, anytime I get to serve God and use my talents, I get that joy. And that's what fuels me. And in the end, like I told you guys, my one goal is nothing more than to just see God. And I hope you can all do it the same. What is it you're all hoping with me? What do you hope, Arisa?
See God.
And for him to say what to you?
Well done. My goodness.
I want you all to say that together. When you see God, when he presents himself before you, you want him to look you in the eyes, hopefully with tears, probably with tears, and you want him to say what? Let's say it all at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Not well done, my brilliant servant, my awesome servant, my incredibly talented servant, my faithful servant. Enter into the joy of my rest. And that's my goal. And I think I'm there. At least today. And so I leave this message with you guys. I hope it makes sense. I hope it impacts you like it has impacted me. And I hope that you feel that you can work and you can use your talents. And if you feel you have no talents, you have many talents. If you don't know what they are, pray about it. God will tell you. He will show you. But I think Hoff mentioned good things. There's my wife also, we're on completely opposite spectrums of talent. She's very compassionate. She's very loving, and she's very gentle, and she's has a wonderful servant's heart. A lot of talents which I don't have. And so that's why we complement each other well. It's because we build off each other's talents. I'm really good at leadership and a lot of just like outgoing, being personal stuff. She's not. She's just really soft and caring and gentle, and she's just so loving. I'm not that. Like, shut up. Pick yourself up. Dust yourself off. Put some dirt in it. Like, I'm just like, wuss. Like, that's just me. I'm a little more rough like that, but my wife is very tender. I don't know. It's just nice, but that's just kind of a tangent. Anyways, that's all I have. Anyone have any questions? Oh, the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Do we know what that is?
Thought. I like the way you put that. Because I was thinking about that. You think about, and he already covered it, so we should also know the answers. Do we